discussion. The Cowboys made a humongous move, a huge risk, and traded a first-round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for two-time Pro Bowler Amari Cooper. But before we tell you what Amari Cooper can do, let's take a look at what the Cowboys currently can't do. Here's a third down nay play in Houston. Look at the top of your screen. There's Deontay Thompson. He is getting absolutely no separation whatsoever in any capacity at the top of his route or anywhere in this route. He tries to come back to the ball, but Jonathan Joseph shadows him the whole way, and it leads to an interception for Justin Reed. Now let's take a look at how a great receiver like Amari Cooper can create separation. The most important component for a receiver is to create separation off the release. In this play, he doesn't. So he takes that one false step to the outside, has the defensive back thinking he's going to head towards the boundary, and then cuts it inside. There's not much separation created off the release on the defensive back, but Amari Cooper creates enough separation to get the first down. This is one of my favorites. Talk about creating separation at the top of your route. Watch this by Amari Cooper. Here he is lined up against Tremaine Brock. He gets it going on the inside and then makes one cut to the outside, and Brock is lost. And there is a wide open receiver. Again, let's take a look at it for good measure. Here is Amari Cooper at the top of your screen right now with Tremaine Brock on him. Brock's on his hip the entire way until he makes the one cut, and now, boom, he's gone. This one's fantastic, even though it's an incompletion. Watch this double move by Amari Cooper. He's going to put the Cleveland defensive back right on his ass because of the move and how deadly it is. Let's watch it again. Here it is. Whoop, inside, now back outside, and on his ass. And it gets funnier and funnier every time you watch it. This is obviously a move for the Cowboys with tremendous risk, but it's obvious that Amari Cooper brings a dynamic to this offense that the Cowboys just don't have. I'm Ari Temkin. Make sure to catch Showtime each and every weekday, starting at noon Central, right here on Phantom. I'm Ari Temkin, and this is Phantom, where we put you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. The Cowboys made a humongous move, a huge risk, and traded a first-round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for two-time Pro Bowler Amari Cooper. But before we tell you what Amari Cooper can do, let's take a look at what the Cowboys currently can't do. Here's a third down nay play in Houston. Look at the top of your screen. There's Deontay Thompson. He is getting absolutely no separation whatsoever in any capacity at the top of his route or anywhere in this route. He tries to come back to the ball, but Jonathan Joseph shadows him the whole way, and it leads to an interception for Justin Reed. Now let's take a look at how a great receiver like Amari Cooper can create separation. The most important component for a receiver is to create separation off the release. In this play, he doesn't. So he takes that one false step to the outside, has the defensive back thinking he's going to head towards the boundary, and then cuts it inside. There's not much separation created off the release on the defensive back, but Amari Cooper creates enough separation to get the first down. This is one of my favorites. Talk about creating separation at the top of your route. Watch this by Amari Cooper. Here he is lined up against Tremaine Brock. He gets it going on the inside and then makes one cut to the outside, and Brock is lost. And there is a wide open receiver. Again, let's take a look at it for good measure. Here is Amari Cooper at the top of your screen right now with Tremaine Brock on him. Brock's on his hip the entire way until he makes the one cut, and now, boom, he's gone. This one's fantastic, even though it's an incompletion. Watch this double move by Amari Cooper. He's going to put the Cleveland defensive back right on his ass because of the move and how deadly it is. Let's watch it again. Here it is. Whoop, inside, now back outside, and on his ass. And it gets funnier and funnier every time you watch it. This is obviously a move for the Cowboys with tremendous risk, but it's obvious that Amari Cooper brings a dynamic to this offense that the Cowboys just don't have. I'm Ari Temkin. Make sure to catch Showtime each and every weekday, starting at noon Central, right here on Phantom. I'm Ari Temkin, and this is Phantom, where we put you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. The Cowboys made a humongous move, a huge risk, and traded a first-round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for two-time Pro Bowler Amari Cooper. But before we tell you what Amari Cooper can do, let's take a look at what the Cowboys currently can't do. Here's a third down nay play in Houston. Look at the top of your screen. There's Deontay Thompson. He is getting absolutely no separation whatsoever in any capacity at the top of his route or anywhere in this route. He tries to come back to the ball, but Jonathan Joseph shadows him the whole way, and it leads to an interception for Justin Reed. Now let's take a look at how a great receiver like Amari Cooper can create separation. The most important component for a receiver is to create separation off the release. In this play, he doesn't. So he takes that one false step to the outside, has the defensive back thinking he's going to head towards the boundary, and then cuts it inside. There's not much separation created off the release on the defensive back, but Amari Cooper creates enough separation to get the first.
All right. Sorry to cut off that video in the middle of it, but I'm Ari Temkin, and thank you for being a part of today's show. This is Showtime, right here on Phantom. Phantom is putting you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. For the next hour, we're going to talk Cowboys, Amari Cooper practices. Plus, was just listening to the G-Bag Nation on 105.3 The Fan. Made a very interesting discussion about the MyBookie odds for Jason Garrett to lose his job, which have not really changed much over the course of the season, which is sort of interesting and perhaps gives us a pretty good idea of the status of Jason Garrett's future in Dallas. But thank you to everybody for being a part of today's show. The Showtimers that join the show each and every day are part of the discussion. The show is built for you. That's what we do at Phantom. We put you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. So this is your show. We interact. It depends. The viability of this show depends on your participation. So shout out to everybody watching across all the different platforms and channels. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So go find Phantom on all those platforms and make sure to subscribe to all of our pages across all of those wonderful platforms. On the Phantom page, Cody Arnold, Zach Rosenberg, Danny Easley, Ninja Nuts, John and Mag, G. Garcia, Henry Munoz, all in the house. G. Garcia says, please, everyone, we are not bringing Dez back. I would love to have Dez back, but it's not happening, so drop it. I don't know who brought up Dez coming back, but I would have thought the trade for Amari Cooper would have silenced that discussion. Dez is definitely not coming back. Danny Easley says, don't forget YouTube today. Ryan Bartlett says, great move. He's only 24, only 6 months older than Calvin Ridley. LVE was the correct pick. Last draft, he proved that. Zeke, 23, Amari, 24, Dak, 25, modern-day triplets. Fingers crossed. Not going to go that far, but sure, why not? Cody Arnold says, I didn't win the lotto, so I'm here. Yeah, congratulations to somebody in South Carolina that apparently won $1.6 billion. That sounds like fun. John and Meg says, with the fire sale in Oakland, would you pursue Jared Cook? Do you see any other moves coming in what position? It's a good question. I'll get into that in a second. But shout out to those of you watching across the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. John Martin, Curtis Starks, Brian Walker, Herman Lopez, Rich Alvarez, Mike Wellman, Mason Kirby. Shout out to all you watching. Go ahead, hit the share button if you've not yet already, and we can get this thing started. I want to push it up to 100 before we really get this thing rolling. So if you wouldn't mind, please do that. Tracy Foster says, good morning. Good morning, Tracy Foster. How are you on the Dallas Cowboys report page? Let's see. All right. Let me just go ahead and hit the share button because I've not done that yet. That's an important component. But as for Jared Cook, no. So Jared Cook's having a really good year. He's the leading receiver for the Oakland Raiders. Wow. That's not a good thing, I think. Jared Cook is their leading receiver, and Jalen Richard. Now Chris Richard has to be thinking everybody's Richard. He's their second leading receiver. So their tight end and running backs are their two leading receivers in Oakland. To me, I'm not trading away any more draft picks. Draft picks are extremely valuable. I mean, like if I could have gotten Damon Snacks Harrison for a 5th-round pick, I'd do that. The Lions got away with highway robbery there from the Giants. I mean, I'm not going to give up anything north of a 5th-round pick for anybody that's left. Look, I like the growth that I've seen from Jeff Swaim. I also want to see Rico Gathers get more involved. So, and I know Brian Broaddus tweeted about this, on the Cowboys pre- and post-game show. He was on the pregame show. He mentioned on Sunday that he heard that the Cowboys were interested in pursuing wide receivers and tight ends in free agency. I'm not going to give up any pick at this point north of the 5th round. I'd trade a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, a 7th rounder, but nothing 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. I'd stay away from that because that's all you have left as far as premium picks are concerned, especially 2nd and 3rd. So I am not going to be giving up any 2nd or 3rd round picks for anybody, especially Jared Cook, who's having a good year because the Raiders are inexplicably making him their leading receiver. Like Amari Cooper was on that team, and he was the 3rd leading receiver on the team. It's ridiculous. All right, hold on one second while I share this. Thank you for bearing with me. Lori Morales in the house. What's up, Lori? How are you? Ryan Bartlett says, wouldn't waste a pick on Jared Cook. Agreed. Harrison cost too much. A fifth rounder for Damon Harrison's too much? Oh, you mean price-wise? We still have to pay Byron Jones, Dak, and D-Law. Nobody's paying Dak, dude. At least I wouldn't. Not yet. I'd definitely pay Byron Jones and D-Law. But, I mean, the math is pretty simple here, guys. The Cowboys have $70 million in cap space available next year. So, I mean, they're going to have enough to be able to pay Amari Cooper the $13 million he's going to make next year, to be able to pay DeMarcus Lawrence, depending on how they structure the contract, be able to pay Byron Jones, and probably still go out there and pursue other free agents. They're going to have $70 million in open cap space. Woo! Cowboys are going to be making it rain for the first time in forever. And this is, something, if you follow this show a lot, that something I've been talking about a lot is, what kind of Cowboys organization are we going to see? Because, in recent iterations of this franchise, they have not been outwardly spending. They have not brought in outside free agents or outside players. They have stuck with their draft, their development, their process. Like, that's what they've done. And, I've often said it's better to go this way than it was the other way, but they've overcorrected. And so I think the trade for Amari Cooper, to me, signifies that now that they finally got themselves out of salary cap hell, they are going to go pursue free agents again. Now, maybe I should have thought that with Sammy Watkins, because that's what they did. They did pursue Sammy Watkins in free agency this offseason, but not to the point where they were able to get the contract done. And quite frankly, thank God, because I'd rather have Amari Cooper than I would Sammy Watkins. Even taking into account giving up a first-round draft pick to do so. But I think the number one thing is, I was curious to find out if this Cowboys team was going to be ultimately committed to only drafting and developing players and then not continuing to not entertain signing free agents from outside the organization. The last big-time free agent that this team brought in was Brandon Carr. Everybody else they brought in free agency, was a low-risk, low-reward sort of, bargain bin Kmart shopping. That's what they did. First week of free agency, and teams would be out there spending a ton, going crazy in free agency. The Cowboys just wade in the pool, and third week came around, they're like, all right, we've got smallish contracts we want to hand out. Who's not lining up to play for the Cowboys? So I was wondering if after this season, when Tony Romo's dead money comes off the books, when Des Bryant's dead money comes off the books, Jason Witten's, they're finally free of all of the dead money that they've had that's accumulated over the course, of the last, decade plus, if they would finally go out and bring in outside free agents. And if this is any indication, the Amari Cooper trade is any indication, the answer to that question is yes. Yeah, absolutely. Which is really cool because, again, the Cowboys are building the right way. The way you build a championship core is through the draft, developing those players, and then giving those players big contracts. But you're not going to fulfill every need through the draft. You're going to miss. You're going to be able to, you're going to draft some positions but miss out on other. Like, you just have to be able to supplement areas where you missed in free agency. That's the purpose of it. Championship teams, they build the core of their team through through the draft, and then supplement where they missed in the draft in free agency. And the Cowboys, with the Amari Cooper trade, indicate that that's the path they're going to be taking as well. Greg Zuniga in the house says, hola, Ari. Hola, Greg. How are you? Ryan Bartlett says, Dak will get Jimmy G money. Watch and see. I wouldn't, perhaps, but I think, that's probably best case scenario through the rest of this season, right? What we've seen so far, there isn't a chance in hell the Cowboys are going to give Dak Prescott Jimmy G type money. Now, again, if Cowboys reach their potential and make the playoffs and then it's a different story altogether. But the Cowboys are not going to be giving Dak Prescott Jimmy G money. Barry Gibson, what's up, Barry Gibson? How are you, buddy? Says it's chess, not checkers with owners now. What do you mean by that? I get the chess, not checkers. I get that metaphor. What do you mean but with owners? You mean in free agency? So what capacity are you speaking to? Kerry Teagle. What's up, Kerry Teagle? The addition of Cooper is the proper evaluation of Dak. If he can't get better with playmakers around him, you know what you have. Right. Exactly. And that's kind of what we talked about when the trade yesterday, when, on the breaking news on Monday and then Tuesday on yesterday's Showtime, like this is, and we're going to get into this in a moment here, and that's, don't be so sure about Jason Garrett's job status, and thumbs up if you think he's gone, and thumbs up if you think no way he's gone, heart emoji if you think he's definitely going to be gone. But like Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan are on the clock. That's what the Amari Cooper trade tells me. But also so is Dak Prescott. Like there's no more excuses. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they overpaid. Well, okay, so what? Like the problem is, would you not make this trade? Like it comes down to, well, I'd love for them to have traded a second-round pick. Well, they couldn't. I mean, I'm sure the Cowboys would have wanted that too, but they couldn't. So would you not do this deal because you only could trade a first-round pick? Or would you do the deal because the only way to get the deal done was to do a first-round draft pick? I'm in the camp that says maybe you overpaid a bit, but I would rather overpay and put Dak Prescott, Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan on the clock and not give anybody any excuses after this season if things don't go right. Cody Arnold says, if Dak don't produce, I hope Jerry don't pay him. No excuses. He has a number one now in his third year. Should be progressing, not regressing. Ryan Bartlett says, Ari, have you not listened to Jerry? Ryan Bartlett says, Dak will get paid. Ryan, seriously, dude? I mean, just so you know, I'm part of the Cowboys pre- and post-game show. I'm in the locker room twice a week. I'm in the locker room after games. Like, don't just take everything that Jerry says as the gospel, okay? A lot of times what Jerry is trying to do is sell his franchise. The last thing he can have is apathy, and he's beginning to have levels of apathy with this fan base. So, I mean, certainly you can, you can say, well, Jerry Jones is all behind Dak Prescott. Well, of course he is. What is he going to say? No, we hate this guy? We're not going to sign him to a long-term contract? Ninja Nut says Earl Thomas is a free agent next season. If we get him and have Byron and Cheeto at corner, we're sitting pretty. Sure. Laura Morales says, how about you cross your fingers and you hope and pray he's gone? Patrick Kahn in the house. What up, Patrick Kahn? Draft Cowboys. What? He said, I'd rather put a one on Cooper than use one on the upcoming class. Ryan Bartlett wants to know who my next quarterback is then. Well, here was what I said after the trade for Amari Cooper happened. I would have taken my first-round draft pick and taken a quarterback. The majority of starting quarterbacks in the NFL are first-round draft picks. There are the few exceptions. Romo is the undrafted free agent. Tom Brady's a late-round pick. But, I mean, just go through them all. Look at all the starting quarterbacks. The majority of them are first-round draft picks. The majority of them are first or second overall picks. Not all of them, but the majority, meaning you are most likely to get a franchise starting quarterback in the first round, and especially early on in the draft. So I would have taken a quarterback in the first round. Now, I know that there's been a lot said about this class not being very good. The Cowboys clearly felt similarly, or they weren't going to take a quarterback with their first-round draft pick. So I would still take a first-round quarterback next year. So I'm not, there's good quarterbacks aren't let go by teams. So you can't really sign good quarterbacks in free agency. That's a rarity. Trading for them is iffy. I mean, you have to draft one. You have to draft one in the first round. That's what history tells you. Matthew Levin says hello. Malcolm Harris says hello. Hello. David Sherwood, hello. That's 3 straight hellos. Hello. Steve Easton, what's up? Efren Moreno, give whatever it takes to draft Justin Herbert. Not sure that's gonna happen. I'm assuming he's gonna be the first overall pick, and you don't. I mean, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. The team that's going to be taking Justin Herbert with the first overall pick, perhaps the New York Giants, are going to be wanting to take a quarterback with the first overall pick. So I mean, there's no amount of first round draft picks you could trade for a guy that's ticketed to be the first overall pick. Ezekiel almost says the Cooper deal is the right one. Let's just hope Dak gets better and throws it to open receivers. Eric Sharp says hello. Joe Tranchino from Sicily, Italy. Shout out to you, buddy. If Prescott keeps struggling after we get him Cooper, I think we should get a quarterback in the second round. Sure. And there are some second-round draft picks that end up becoming starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Drew Brees is the one that stands out. Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe, is a second-round pick. But again, you give yourself the best chance to get a franchise quarterback by taking him in the first round. And that's what the Cowboys gave up by trading for Amari Cooper. Now, I'm okay with it because if the Cowboys weren't going to take a quarterback in the upcoming draft, then I'm okay with it. But if they were, then I'm not okay with it. And here's the thing. I think the Cowboys feel confident that they like Dak Prescott enough when they have Amari Cooper. They've seen how good he can be with a legitimate number one. Is that guy available? That guy that used to be the number one for the Cowboys? They see what they have, and they feel confident that they could get similar production potentially with Amari Cooper. So here's what they could do, because I'm not for not taking a quarterback in the first round of the upcoming draft and then taking him in the 2020 draft when you have Dak Prescott hitting free agency. So my guess is you have a situation where a Kirk Cousins type situation to where, if you're not completely sure about Dak Prescott after this year and then after next year when he's played out the full contract on his rookie deal, then you hit the franchise tag on him, draft a quarterback, and then develop him in that last year, and then make the decision long-term on Dak or on your first-round draft pick. Efren Moreno says this is his last year. Dak? Well, he's under contract next year, so it's not his last year. Manuel Padron says, is Paxton Lynch a free agent? Yes, because he's horrible. Rusty Howell says hello. Hello? 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 Johnny is better than Dak. Johnny Manziel is better than Dak. He's not even starting in the Canadian Football League. Thomas Carpenter. Xavier Guzman says, it's, quote, think long, think wrong when Dak tries to get the ball out. Ryan Bartlett says Rico is trash. Jarwin is below average. I'd say Jarwin is trash. Rico is better now than he's ever been. I'm not really sure what he'll become, but I've seen more promise and potential from Rico Gathers than I've seen, now throughout the course of his entire career. Jason Turner's laughing. All right, let's see here. Let me check on YouTube real quick. But shout out to all you watching. I am Ari Temkin. You can catch me on the Dallas Cowboys pregame show and postgame show on 105.3 The Fan. No show this week. It's the bye week. Wah, wah. But obviously the Cowboys will play a week from Monday. Monday Night Football will be the first time we'll see Amari Cooper in a Cowboys game, potentially. The reason I say that is because Amari Cooper left the last game that he played for the Raiders with a concussion. So technically he's in the concussion protocol. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen that hit that he took, just Google, not now but later, Amari Cooper vicious hit, because it was tough to watch. And again, so he's in the concussion protocol. My assumption is he'll play, but you never know because he still is in the concussion protocol. How pissed off would Cowboys fans be, by the way, if that happened? On YouTube, Stevie Mack in the house. What's up, Stevie Mack? Didn't forget about you today. At least it only took me 24 minutes to get to you. Stevie Mack says, Jesse James from Pittsburgh, if Rico and crew doesn't pan out, have a free agent after this year and balls out whenever McDonald's injured. Yeah, maybe. Tone Hero 85 says, Ari! Tone Hero! Stevie Mack says, Jared Cook's also a free agent after this year as well. Jared Cook should not be the leading receiver in Oakland. Shouldn't be. That's a quarterback scheme offense issue. Kind of like the situation that was presenting itself after the first 4 or 5 weeks when Jeff Swaim was the Cowboys' leading receiver. I also like how Jeff Swaim has developed. Look, this is a guy that was neck and neck with Jarwin coming out of camp. Blake Jarwin's garbage, but Jeff Swaim has become a pretty productive wide receiver, and I think he's finally getting the hang of being sort of the dual threat kind of guy as far as blocking and pass catching. And when I interviewed him earlier this year, he says, last year I was out on basically 17 to 20% of snaps. This year I'm out on 95% of the snaps. So it's a different situation. Shout out to the America's Fans Silver and Blue Club page. If you don't, go like the page. We've got a lot of great partners here at Phantom. So a shout out to all of our partners. Let's see here. Kerry Teagle says the number 19 just got faster. Yeah. And I thought they'd cut Hearns. Instead, they end up cutting Bryce Butler in order to make room on their roster for Amari Cooper, and he's also wearing his number, 19. I wonder if, like, would Jarwin just not give up 89? Was that the problem there, or did he want 19, or what? Keith Stone says, yo, Ari, late to the show, just shared. What's the word on those odds? Good question. I'll get to that in a second. G. Garcia says, so if Dak and Amari have a great chemistry and they get the ball out, what's everyone going to say then? Then they'll say that Dak's their quarterback. Gerald McDonald says, what's up, Ari? Gerald, how are you, sir? No, I don't like Romo as the next offensive coordinator. Is Ruben Martinez watching this? Can you explain to Ryan Bartlett why I don't like Romo as the next coordinator? He doesn't even want to coach. He's not coaching. Deanna Lopez says, I'm curious about the same thing, but I also wouldn't let one game fool me. You talking about as far as, on the yeah, look, nobody should let one individual game in the NFL dictate long-term contracts. I mean, this isn't Jerry Jones in the early 2000s, which obviously that was something he did. But, look, the Cowboys said all offseason they didn't need a number one wide receiver. They were wrong. They admitted they were wrong by making this trade. As a fan of a team, you should be pretty happy that a franchise would admit that they were wrong about something before the season started 7 weeks into that season and try to fix it. That's something you should applaud as a fan, because most franchises don't do that. And the Cowboys in recent history haven't really done that. So we'll see now, with a full basically 2 weeks to work with Dak and Amari Cooper, how quickly this will impact Dak positively. But, look, it's going to take multiple games. I mean, I often say you judge a season, you can judge things in an NFL season based on quarters. So when you look at the first half of the season, which the Cowboys are basically through at this point, they hit the bye at the midpoint of the season, which is great for them. Week 8, perfect time to be hitting the bye. The offense is bad. Dak Prescott's not the guy. Offensive coordinator and head coach have to go. These are the things we've learned out of the first 7 games of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. So the next 4 games will help us get a pretty good understanding of if these things change. And then, of course, the final 8, the same kind of thing. Because 1 week, it's an anomaly. It's a blip. It might not continue. But 4 weeks, a quarter, it's a trend. Ian Goldberg in the house says, what's up, Ari? Hoping for the best in this trade and what it will tell us about the near future with coaches and players. Ruben Martinez, no experience. Ruben, can you please explain to Ryan Bartlett why I don't think Romo would be a good coach? Because a lot of the things that Romo was good at, the things that Romo's best attributes are not necessarily teachable. Can't teach feel of the rush. Can't really even teach being an offensive coordinator at the line of scrimmage. And again, Romo's a quarterback, can walk up to the line of scrimmage and then see what the defense is and then call a play. He can't do that as the offensive coordinator. You call the play, it's in the huddle, and then he walks up to the line of scrimmage. You can't have Romo on the sideline now trying to change the play at the line of scrimmage every time. That doesn't work. Deanna Lopez says, I pray this move helps my team long term, and then gives the heart. G. Garcia says, please, no Romo and Dez talk. We have to move on, people. Agreed. All right, let's see. Curtis Starks says, I think Dak and Amari will have some success, but Zeke game will elevate because of the move. And that's, it was so glaring how much they were missing a number one option. And I hope you guys watched the video that the film breakdown of Amari Cooper that I played in the introduction here. But, this guy's legit when it comes to creating separation. I mean, he is... and you can see, if you go to the Phantom page at facebook.com/watch Phantom, you can see the full breakdown there, but you'll see, I play a video of Deontay Thompson who creates no separation in any capacity on Jonathan Joseph. And this is a trend we've seen from most Cowboys receivers. They're not able to create separation. That's Amari Cooper's best trait, his ability to create separation. So, look at so once you have that, now Zeke's better because teams obviously don't have to put 9-10 guys in the box to stop Zeke. Now Cole Beasley's better. Beasley's a really, really good receiver, but not a number one. He's a complementary piece. So one move to get a legitimate number one now has a dramatic impact over the entire offensive ecosystem. Mickey Scheringer says, I respectfully disagree about your thoughts on Romo as a coach. He has great knowledge and I believe can and will be a great teacher and play caller. Okay. Noe Vela says, Richard for head coach. Ian Goldberg says, John DiFilippo, OC from Minnesota. I want him as our head coach. And Ruben Martinez says, things are not teachable. You're the man, Ruben. Ryan England says, I'm buying in on the Richard Kingsbury combo. LOL. David Anzeldua says, what's going on with Tyron? Looks slow, getting outplayed. He's an old 27. He's had a bad back for the last 2 years. So anybody that didn't see this coming doesn't know how bad backs get worse over time. So I think we kind of were at a point in time where it was like, well, let's see, maybe, fingers crossed, but it's obvious that, look, there's still times in which Tyron Smith is a dominant offensive lineman, but it's not as often as it has been in the past in his career. And that's sad because he's unbelievable and was for a very long period of time. Ryan Ariano says, any update on Swaim's knee? Believe he's fine, but I'll check on that after practice today. Daryl Knus says, still have no faith in Dak and think he can lead us, but not with this coaching staff. Edford Moreno says, give Cooper Rush an opportunity. Absolutely not. Usually the backup quarterback's the most popular guy in the locker room for a fan base. Not in this situation. Let's go get Jim Bob Cooter from G Garcia, LOL. Dallas Cowboys Report. Shout out to all you. By the way, if you have not yet hit the share button, that'd be great. I do want to get to Keith Stone's comment. I haven't forgot about you, Keith. Asking about the odds for Garrett, because that was something that I thought was interesting, and I heard it on the G-Bag Nation earlier, and I think it's very interesting. All right, let's see here. Cowboys Report. Shout out to all you watching on the Cowboys Report. By the way, quickest way to have your comments heard is by going to Phantom. Facebook.com/watch Phantom. Again, I'm trying to navigate through multiple pages and platforms at the same time. I've got literally 3 devices here that are like helping me do that. But the quickest way to have your comments heard to interact is by going over to Facebook.com/watch Phantom. JT Royal says, what's up? They didn't overpay for Cooper specifically since it was in Philly were best to get him. Okay. Josh Rager says, what does Jason Garrett say in the locker room after a loss? He claps. LOL. That's Darius Hawkins. That's pretty good. That, and I mean, he's even keel. He says similar things in the locker room after wins as he does after losses. That's not true, actually. He's a good motivator. That is like number one on the list for what Jason Garrett does positively as a head coach. I don't know if there's many other things, but certainly one of them is motivation. Patrick Amari creates 3.8 yards of separation. Beasley creates 2.5, and Gallup and Hearns create 1.7. Yeah. That is his best attribute, is his ability to create separation, his release. It's what they haven't had. I know people bring up the drops. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens when he's in a Cowboys uniform. But I do think it's hard. It's difficult to not expect this offense to be considerably better just with the addition of Amari Cooper. They had a good receiving corps. That's the thing. They're just all number 2s or 3s. And maybe Gallup can develop into a legitimate number 1, but right now, like Amari is your X, Gallup is your Y, Cole Beasley is your Z. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good threesome right there. Cody Arnold says, I guarantee you we won't lose this week. Woo! Ryan Bartlett says, you're doing a great. Ari, miss you in San Antonio. Now we get Stephen A. screaming. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, I am better than Stephen A. Smith. Patrick Kahn says, 1 drop this season, Ari. Is that true? By the way, he only has 1 drop this season. Everybody keeps bringing up his drops. And I also, it's funny because I, in the video the video breakdown, the film breakdown that I did of Amari Cooper that played in the intro of this, and you can also check out by going over the Phantom page, like, there was one ridiculous double move that he pulled. He goes off the line of scrimmage. He goes up, in, and then out. And he put the Cleveland Browns corner on his ass. Like, he just boom, boom. And the guy was like, he tripped over nothing on the move. And then Derek Carr just sails the pass over his head. I mean, it was the easiest touchdown you can get. Now, Dak Prescott does have accuracy issues, but like that just shows you, like, people want to talk about drops. I mean, the only thing that was dropped in that play was the cornerback, and it's just incredible. Miguel Loza III says, happiness is a choice, Ari. That's a hardline listener right there. Shout out to you, Miguel. Ruben Martinez says, do you still see the Cowboys going after Earl Thomas in free agency? Absolutely. But it depends on the price. Again, they have $70 million in cap space. I don't know what it's going to take to sign D-Law, but a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of money probably to sign Byron Jones. It's going to take, and Amari Cooper's $13 million. So, and Ryan Bartlett says ET is done. Over 30 injured would have to be dirt cheap. Yeah. And look, I mean, he's clearly on the down of his career. And you can just look at that as far as games played in the last 3 seasons. He played, I think, 16 games every year up until the last 3 years, and he hasn't. I mean, he's played in like less games each and every year. Steve Undrowski says, we still cool with keeping Connor Williams at guard? Yes. Yeah, they're not going to move. They're not going to move Lyle Collins. They're not going to move Connor Williams. That's where they're at. James Chuck Johnson says, well, now we'll see if Dak is worth paying next year. He has 10 games with Cooper. Correct. Absolutely. Ruben Martinez says, what's up, Patrick Kahn? By the way, Patrick Kahn does fantastic work. He writes great articles for WFAA. And just follow him on Twitter at Draft Cowboys. And starting this week, he's going to be part of the Cowboys Beat, which is formerly my podcast, now our podcast. So make sure to go to podcasts and search Cowboys Beat, because I'm really excited to bring on the great Patrick Kahn onto that podcast. Chris Terrell says, you're way better than Stephen A. Well, I mean, no more compliments, but, Tracy Foster says, I need a foursome. Matt and Katrina Sanchez, thumbs up, saying no way he's gone about Jason Garrett. Anton Johnson says, fam, any update on Frederick? We have to address the O-line. Any help on the way? So he's not available until at least, was it December? Because he's been placed on short-term IR. It's tough to tell because, I would just say there's a pretty good chance he's not going to play at any point the rest of this year. Maybe if they make the playoffs, he might be available. As we've been in the locker room throughout the course of this year, he's been speaking, but he's still sort of in this disease. He's still within it. And then once he's got the disease out of his system, for lack of a better way to put it, then he's got to, now he's got to get himself back in shape. He's not able to stay in shape and lift weights. I mean, it's going to be a long process. And, quite frankly, I was surprised they didn't put him on short-term IR to start the year. So I just wouldn't expect Travis Frederick to be back at any point this year. Week 14, I believe. Yes. Yeah. Corey Miller says, late to the show. Hey. Corey Miller, by the way, is a part of the Houston Cowboys page. If you don't, go like the Houston Cowboys page. Even if you're not in Houston, because it's got really good, great Cowboys coverage. And let me go check out the Houston Cowboys page and see what's going on in the comments over there. Let's see here. Juan Ruiz says, no me convince. Huh. What do you mean? Chris Terrell says, the offense should be able to move the ball with those 3 wide receivers and Zeke in the backfield. Swain is starting to come as well. Right. I agreed. And again, Gathers is emerging in a way that we haven't seen before throughout the course of his career. Let's see here. On the Houston Cowboys page. Shout out. Let me see if there's any comments over there. Again, trying to get to all the comments across all the platforms and pages as quickly as I possibly can. Shout out to the folks watching on YouTube. My Cowboys family says Cooper will expose these coaches and tell us to sign Dak long-term or not. Stevie Mack says, I agree on that. my Cowboys family. Not a fan of Sanjay Lal, Kellen Moore, and the tight ends coach as well. Our tight ends coach is really a quarterback coach, just randomly thrown in there. He's probably a better quarterback coach than Moore. Look, the main coaches that matter, for the most part, on a staff are the head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. Coordinator is the most. Like I think sometimes when teams lose, people look at position coaches as easy targets or excuses. Like I don't buy into that. I think Sanjay Lal is a considerably better coach for the receivers than Derek Dooley ever was. I mean, in terms of teaching the position. I mean, Dooley kind of just let those guys do what they need to do, whereas Sanjay Lal was more hands-on, teaching technique, those kinds of things. So, I think once we get into position coach criticisms, we're kind of missing the boat of what's truly important about winning and losing. Let's see here. On the Houston Cowboys page, Anthony Jessica Sotelo says, Cowboys need to get rid of Coach Clapp his entire time as head coach. He's been, Marco Ibarra says, by going and drafting a quarterback, you have to start from scratch. Now the clock starts again. Yeah, it's true. But, again, if you don't think Dak Prescott's the guy, then the best chance of getting your franchise quarterback is by drafting them in the first round. And that's just based on history. Okay, so Manuel Pardone says, Washington State, love your show. Thank you. Padrone, not Pardone. Doug Nussmeier is the head coach, or the tight ends coach. All right, so let's get to the Garrett thing. So I was listening to the G-Bag Nation on the great 105.3 The Fan this morning, and if you don't, you need to check out 105.3 The Fan. It's a fantastic station. Easily the best in DFW, best for Cowboys coverage. It's a station I'm on, so check it out. The G-Bag Nation was talking about MyBookie.ag, who has odds on who was most likely to be the Cowboys head coach in 2019. The first game of 2019, who's most likely to be the Cowboys head coach. So any guesses as to where Jason Garrett was? So you would think the current head coach of the team would have the best odds of being that team's head coach for the first game of the following season. Would you not? I would have expected that to be the case. So, according to my bookie, Jason Garrett has the fourth best odds. Fourth best odds to being the Dallas Cowboys head coach opening day in 2019. Fourth. I don't have the list in front of me, but John DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator of the Vikings, formerly the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, has the best odds. Sean Payton, Josh McDaniels has the best odds, which probably upsets Cowboys fans because I think most are like, Josh McDaniels? Ugh. He's Patriots offensive coordinator, was about to be hired by... Who was he about to be hired by? Indy, to be their head coach, and then turned him down at the last moment. So he's back as the offense. Now, he was a head coach with the Broncos. It didn't go very well. And so I think a lot of people look at him negatively. Like, I think he learned a lot from his experiences being the head coach in Denver. I still wouldn't want him. Like, I've got a list of like 5 guys I'd rather have before him. Patrick Kahn says, my guess Sean Payton has the best odds. Close, but Sean Payton has the second best odds of becoming the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys, which is surprising considering he still is a coach of a really good team that has a really good quarterback. Now, obviously, he lives in Dallas, still has a home in Westlake. He coached under Bill Parcells in Dallas, so he's got ties to the Cowboys, and he's always had ties to the Cowboys. What's crazy is he has his odds of being the coach on the Cowboys week 1 of 2019 are twice as high as Garrett's. That's insane. I believe John DeFilippo was 3, and then Jason Garrett was 4. If I were Jerry Jones, I would hire Lincoln Riley. He'd be my number 1. Boom. I wouldn't be opposed to Chris Richard becoming the head coach and Cliff Kingsbury becoming the offensive coordinator. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wouldn't be opposed to Sean Payton. In fact, I just don't think Sean Payton comes to the Cowboys. Now, I'd probably hire him over Lincoln Riley, although I'm not entirely certain I would. But Sean Payton is either like number 1 or number 2 on my list. Ryan Ariano says, I like Sean Payton, bring Breeze with him. And I've heard this before, and maybe the expectation for Sean Payton is they go win a Super Bowl this year. Drew Brees then retires. Drew Brees has already said that he'll probably retire, earlier than people expect. So maybe they go win a Super Bowl, Drew Brees retires, and Sean Payton's like, you know what, I'd rather go to the Cowboys now. I don't want to be part of this rebuild with a brand new quarterback here in New Orleans. Ian Goldberg says Lincoln Riley won't leave Oklahoma. Really? You think so? Maybe, but I don't know that I believe that. Especially for the Cowboys, but maybe you're right. Nick Saban. I would think, Ninja Nuts, that there is a 0% chance that Nick Saban would come to the Cowboys. Only because I think Nick Saban, like Jason Garrett, would be a really good college coach. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't compare Jason Garrett and Nick Saban. That's ridiculous. But Nick Saban is a very good college coach. Remember, Jason Garrett coached under Nick Saban with the Dolphins. They're very much cut from the same cloth, motivational. Now, Saban's a genius, and Jason Garrett went to Princeton, so I guess he's a purported genius. But it's beside the point. Jason Garrett, if he gets fired by the Cowboys, should go and coach in college. He is more of a collegiate head coach. And I think would be probably a pretty good collegiate head coach. But again, I think it's very interesting that the odds are what they are because, man, you'd think Jason Garrett would still have the best odds to be the Cowboys coach week 1 of 2019. So I think that gives you a pretty good indication of, like, as much as things might have changed week to week, the odds of Garrett losing his job haven't. Everybody wanted Garrett fired after the Houston game, and rightfully so, because people want Garrett out. Most Cowboys fans want Garrett out. And for the ones that don't, it's like, what's wrong with you guys? Sorry, but not sorry. But after the Jaguars game, where there started to become more optimism for Garrett, the odds didn't change. Odds stayed the same. And obviously they did after the Washington game. So, and I've been over this before, but I think it's worth repeating. The people who say, well, if they haven't fired Garrett by now, he's survived everything, why would they fire him now? Well, because now is the time. They weren't going to fire Garrett as long as Tony Romo was here because Romo was the offensive coordinator, right? He'd walk up to the line of scrimmage, he'd diagnose the defense, and then he'd call play based on what he saw. Well, if you fire Garrett, you bring in a new head coach, they're not going to want that. They're not going to let that happen. So I think Romo and Garrett were married. Like, there was a marriage there that wasn't going to be broken up. That's why, even through those 8-8 seasons, they didn't fire Jason Garrett. Because they thought that Romo was their best bet, and he was. And because of that, Jason Garrett was the guy that was, designed the offense. Romo's perfected the offense. They didn't want to bring in anybody else to upset the apple cart. So there was no way they were going to fire Garrett so long as Romo was here. Well, Romo's gone. I don't need to tell you that. You all know that. Well, they're not going to fire Garrett after year 1 of Dak Prescott, where he's the offensive rookie of the year and they win 12 games. That's ridiculous. Well, and then last season, they went 9-7, so it wasn't the worst season in the history of the Cowboys, but not a great season. But you can explain away the issues. Like, if you're Garrett and Jerry, you can look at this and say, okay, yeah, you went 9-7, which is good, and you didn't have Tyron Smith for a good portion of the season, and you didn't have Zeke Elliott for a good portion of the season, right? So now, like, the excuses and the reasons, they've all run dry. There's nothing keeping him here anymore. So if they don't make the playoffs, he's gone. And I know I said this yesterday. I don't know that I believe it, but perhaps there's a chance that even if they make the playoffs and go 1 and done, he'd be gone. Maybe. That seems hard to believe, but maybe. Steve Eason says Shaw from Stanford. Maybe. I guess I like David Shaw. I'm not sure. I'd almost, though, rather go with a current NFL offensive coordinator. Like, I might rather go with DiFilippo or Even McDaniels. Let's see here. Salo Jackie says, ever think that the Cowboys can't just complete the plays? Salo Jackie says, unfollowing you, just annoying. Me? Me? Tracy Foster says, nothing's going to change until Jerry Jones is the owner. You mean the opposite? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I know that Jerry has changed the dynamic of this front office, and so I don't, I think 10 years ago I would have agreed with you, but I'm not. So I mean, like Jerry's the ultimate decision maker here, but so is the head coach, so is Steven, so is Will McClay. Like, this is not the same organizational structure as it has been. Keith Stone says, who's this DiFilippo guy? He worked under Doug Peterson for the Eagles and won a Super Bowl with them and then left. What's interesting is, I don't know, why did he leave for the same job? Maybe he got more money, but basically he was the offensive coordinator of the Eagles under Doug Peterson that won the Super Bowl last year and then left. He got a lot of interviews this offseason, didn't get hired, and then became the Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator. So that's where he is right now. He's the Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator. But a lot of people obviously attribute the success the Eagles had last year to DiFilippo, and everybody's now trying to pick from the Andy Reid tree, which is Doug Peterson, and Doug Peterson and DiFilippo both came from Andy Reid in Kansas City. Cody Arnold says, Ari's the shit. I love his show. Funk that dude. Damn right. Salo Jackie. Patrick Kahn says DiFilippo did a great job with Wentz. Absolutely. Oh, he was the quarterback's coach. Huh. Who was the offensive coordinator? Was Peterson just the offensive coordinator? So what is he like? Wasn't DiFilippo like the quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, but Peterson was calling the plays? Is that how it was? But good point. And now he's the offensive coordinator in Minnesota, so that's probably why he'd leave. Neil Favre says, Ari, how about Romo as the head coach? JK, LOL. I was about to punch you through the screen, Neil. Just kidding. I love you. Jason Wright in the house says, hey, Ari Temkin. Hey, Jason Wright, how are you? Cody Arnold says, I think Romo would be an excellent quarterback coach, maybe OC. Larry Brown says, I heard Houston's head coach is a possibility. Please, God, no. Thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather not have Bill O'Brien, but cool. G. Garcia says, Ari waved by. LOL, Ari is savage. Ty Shelton says, awesome show. Thank you. Chris Bennett says, would Breeze come to Dallas if Peyton comes? I think the only circumstances in which Sean Payton comes to the Cowboys would be if Drew Brees retired. And maybe that could happen. Frank Reich. God, I'm getting my Philly OC mismatched. Good point. Frank Reich was, I don't know anything, guys. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles last year when they won the Super Bowl. John DiFilippo was the quarterback coach who helped develop Cooper Wentz. Connor Rush, Cooper Wentz. Cooper Rush, Carson Wentz. Too many weird C names for me to keep track of. I'm just going to not comment. My shits are ignored. Dakota Stiegel. Dakota. I'm not ignoring you. I haven't seen your comments. My apologies. If you'd like, I can provide you a written apology. Right. And now Frank Reich is the head coach in Indy. Hey, Ari, generic comment about Romo that you've read about 10,000 times. Ty Shelton says we need Sean McVay. That's not going to happen. Curtis Stark says Eagles benefited from last place schedule. Here's the thing about that. It's 2 games. So the Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, and Giants play the exact same schedule, except for 2 games. So I don't know if I buy that. The thing is, sometimes you get lucky and you've got the 2 games against bad teams, and then you play a bad AFC division, and then if you get even luckier, play a bad NFC division. Sometimes that happens, but it's just 2 games. Neil Favre says Frank Reich was very aggressive in that 32-point comeback playoff win. That's the exact opposite of Garrett's coaching style. It is. It is. Ty Shelton says, not Sean McVay. We need a coach like him. To me, that's Lincoln Riley. Young, innovative, smart, creative, outside-the-box thinker. Are those all 5? Is that 5 there? Eric Sharp says, haha, savage, Ari. Larry Brown says, is this Oklahoma's last year for their coach? He's a good offensive coordinator. Talking about Lincoln Riley. Yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys were to get Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma, he'd have to be their head coach. And I don't know that he'd even leave Oklahoma to be the Cowboys head coach. I suspect he would. I mean, Sean Payton, Lincoln Riley, like those would be my top 2. And then like take your pick of DeFilippo, McDaniels. I'm not that anti-McDaniels because I think like people are soured on him after the Broncos stuff, but I mean I think when you look at young, innovative, outside the box thinkers, he's one of them. I just think he took over the Broncos. He's probably too young, but I would imagine he's learned a lot from his failures in that capacity because it was embarrassing for him. So if he got another opportunity, I imagine he'd take advantage of it. So he wouldn't be my first choice. He wouldn't even be my second choice. He probably wouldn't be my third choice. But I wouldn't be completely upset if they hired him. But I don't know that they would. Because with the reputation that the Cowboys have with Jerry, even though it's not necessarily true, and he didn't leave for Indy before, so maybe there's a feeling from him like, well, I don't want to go there when I can stay here. And I know, they're classifying. In some ways, we've heard that like McDaniels is the head coach in waiting in New England, which like, okay, that's the dumbest thing ever. Keith Stone said he also had no quarterback at Denver. Good point. Ian Goldberg says, love your show, Ari. Hopefully we can get your noon show live as well through my Cowboys family. All right, cool. I don't know how we would do that, but that sounds cool. Neil Favre says, Garrett has to be gone if the team doesn't produce winning results after the trade for Cooper. There really are no excuses anymore now, postseason or bust for Garrett. Agreed completely. And that's like part of why I loved the trade as much as I did was because now it puts Garrett, Linehan, Dak on the clock. Go produce. Because if not, there's no excuses anymore. Excuses are off the table. Larry Brown says, what about Richardson, our defensive coordinator, make him head coach, then Riley offensive coordinator? First of all, it's Richard. Second of all, you're not going to hire Lincoln Riley, the head coach of Oklahoma, to become the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. You might not even hire him to become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. The only way to get Lincoln Riley to Dallas would be to hire him as the head coach, and I'm not even sure that would be enough. Bobby Moreno says, McDaniel's great OC. If you guys think Garrett going to keep job, odds are 4-1. That he keeps his job according to what? According to which book? Because, again, as I referenced, my bookie has him with the 4th best odds to be the Cowboys coach week 1 of 2019. And they had Josh McDaniels with the best odds, Sean Payton with the 2nd best odds, DeFilippo as the 3rd best odds, and then Garrett there with 4th best odds. Cody Miller says, I think next year will be the year to watch the Cowboys again. This team is too shaken up this season. I don't agree with that. The division's bad. They just added Amari Cooper, which should dramatically impact their offense. I mean, I don't think this is all of a sudden the best team in the NFL, but I certainly think this team will be. I don't think the Redskins win this division, guys. I don't. I still think the Eagles or Cowboys win this division. So right now they're tied at 3-4 and haven't played each other yet. So I think there's a lot of football left to be played. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. Thank you all for being a part of today's show. Thank you all for being a part of every day's show. The Showtimers who make this show what it is. The people who are streaming the show, communicating, interacting. You guys are the lifeblood of the show. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you. G. Garcia, Patrick Kahn, Cody Miller, Neil Favre, Keith Stone, Ian Goldberg, Jason Wright, David Alejandre, Ty Shelton, Dakota Stiegel, Ninja Nuts, Robert Anchetta, Cody Arnold. Who else am I missing? Curtis Starks. You're the man, Curtis. Brian Hernandez, Brian Walker, Efren Moreno, Eric Sharp, Lori Morales, Ryan Ariano, Steve Eason. Couldn't do the show without you guys. So if this is your first time, nice to meet you. I'm Ari Temkin. Hope you come back tomorrow. 12 o'clock noon, same time, same place tomorrow. But for now, I'm out. Peace.